Welcome to Andy's Personal Development, the place for transactional conversations. During these conversations, we'll discover intentionality and clarity, and of course, purpose. Now, here is your host, Andy Anderson Charles. Hey, welcome to this edition of Transactional Conversations, our second for this year 2025, this being a new year. And if we haven't told you as well, we wish you a happy, successful, and a complete new year for 2025. This episode is entitled A Powerful Story of Resilience with Tyler Kania, and he's in the house and he's ready and prepared and willing and raring to go. So let's just give you a little introduction to him with regards to the episode and what he is going to look like. Then I'll be back to give you some information on Tyler. Stand by for this. Yeah, that's the man. That's the man. So here's the info that I have promised you. Tyler Kenya is a rugby player, coach, cybersecurity salesman, cryptocurrency entrepreneur, stonemason, painter, and writer, and he's from Columbia, Connecticut. Tyler suffers from bipolar disorder, and his rugby career has been marred by the very rare and traumatic ruptured patella tendon twice. He's an avid reader and writer, and his first book, The Maniac with No Knees, is an exciting and introspective memoir that dives deep into the severity of his mental illness. When healthy, Tyler plays rugby for the Hartford Wanderers Rugby Club and hangs out with his Bernedoodle dog, Betsy. Wow, amazing. Also intriguing. So without further ado, let's welcome live on Transactional Conversations, the man, Tyler Kenya. Welcome.
Hey, Andy. Great being here. Being
Ah,
here. Appreciate it.
good having you. We appreciate you, and we're looking forward to hearing your intriguing story. So, Tyler, at the end of the day, when you look back at your life and you think about summarizing what you have lived, what you have seen and experienced thus far, in a nutshell, how would you say to people who want to understand your story and your values that this is me, Tyler Kenya, and this is what I stand for?
Um, I would say that I have 9 lives. I'm like a cat.
Mm,
I've come close to mortality a couple times, both by my own, you know, desire and, without that. But I've also transformed myself many times in terms of career. And, you mentioned all the different vocations I've had at one time or another. I pride myself on being talented across disciplines and not necessarily a specialist. I'm a dilettante, a dabbler, right? I've been a cybersecurity salesman. I've been a stonemason. I've been a crypto startup entrepreneur. I've been a painter. I've been, a rugby player, and I've been a rugby coach. And I've tried all of these things, and I've done well at most of them for a certain period of time, and then my illness, my bipolar comes in and pretty much ruins everything for me. So I've found that out of necessity, I've had to reinvent myself over and over again. I try really hard to um, you know perform a task in the best way I possibly can, no matter what that task is. I'm really curious, but because of my illness, I haven't been able to really reach my full potential in anything. And so, I tell people that writing, my life as a writer, is my ninth life. It's my last one. And, the reason why I survived those 8 other lives was because God was telling me that I needed to share my story. I needed to um, not be left alone so that I could make others not feel so alone. That's what I would say.
yeah. Very intriguing, and I thank you, Tyler, for being so open and vulnerable with us on this episode. It is truly amazing. You have a powerful story of resilience. How would you identify the role of rugby in your life? Are you seeing that you can define yourself more through rugby, or does rugby in many ways define you?
Um, you know, I played a lot of sports growing up, and I was good at most of them, but I was good because I tried really hard and I practiced a lot and I worked out a lot. Um, but when I touched a rugby ball, I realized that this was something like I was good at rugby from the moment I started playing. And,
Mm.
that feeling of confidence, that person that I was on the field, winning all these college championships and making all these different select teams and stuff like that. Um, and also having the community of my friends and my teammates around me, right? Like I moved to New York City and I instantly had 30 friends because I joined the rugby team, right? And the times when I didn't have rugby in my life, there was a void missing. And I'm 32. My knees and my illness have prevented me from going where I wanted to go in this sport. But I've found that no matter what my ambitions might be, just having those guys around me at the end of the day, the guys that sweat and bleed and cry alongside you, that's been instrumental into my recovery from the worst of my illness. So I've found that I've had rugby out of my life, and we might get into it later, how it came back into my life. But now that it's back in it, I don't, whether it's playing or coaching, I'm going to be around it forever.
Yeah, and that's a positive and healthy outlook, Tyler. We appreciate that, and we appreciate you. If you go back in history, Tyler, could you remember any moment or moments in your life that you would consider as defining, like the aha moment where you discovered something that you knew was necessary for you to hold on to because your future depending on it?
Yeah. You know, I I worked really hard, and I have a few examples, but
Sure.
I was doing really well in cybersecurity sales. I made $250,000 the year I was 26,
Mm-hmm.
and money was a part of my identity. Monetary wealth was, something that I had taken pride in after I had left the rugby field. I had ruptured my patellar tendon and I went crazy for the first time and I quit rugby at the peak of my career, and I didn't touch a ball or I didn't even communicate with my old rugby friends for several years after that. And then, I ended up getting manic again, quitting my six-figure job, and I spent a year in my room just reading books, um, all sizes. I was averaging 300 pages per day. Um, you know, did epics like Michener and um, Infinite Jest. I did Infinite Jest in 3 weeks. But when I got out of that depression, it was depression that was keeping me in my room reading.
Mm-hmm.
It got really bad when I couldn't find a job, and I put a rope around my neck, and it was the last day of April in 2021, and I looked out the window, and these clouds parted, and like it was late afternoon, the sun came out, and I put the rope down and I thought, well, one of my best friends is getting married tomorrow. I might as well stick around a little longer. And then a week later, I go to a rugby friend's birthday party for the first time in years. I haven't seen these guys at all. And I'm really, I was their captain in college. I was their leader with all this confidence. And,
Mm-hmm.
here I was coming off of a suicide attempt and not having a job for a year and stuff like that. And, I didn't want to go, but I forced myself to. And, the boys passed me the rugby ball, and all those feelings came back again. All that like confidence and that sense of pride. And they invited me to their exhibition game the next week. It was not it was an exhibition game. It wasn't like a
Mm-hmm.
formal match or anything like that. But their coach on the Hartford Wanderers had been my coach in college. And so I came to watch them play. And when an injury happened on the field, his wife, the coach's wife, convinced me to go out and play. And I hadn't played in 5 years. And a week before that, I had attempted suicide. And the first time I touched the ball, I set up the game-winning score. And
Wow.
then rugby came back into my life. I ended up becoming a coach at a college, and that was kind of the turning point, for me, anyways. But there were other turning points too. There was me finally being institutionalized and being prescribed lithium for the first time, which saved my life, and getting to see all the people that were suffering much worse than me, in these mental health hospitals. And it sort of gave me a reminder of my blessings, how much fortunate I am than a lot of them. Um, and then you fast forward when I ruptured my second patellar tendon this spring, um, and I just started writing. I was manic. I went manic because of the pain, and I wasn't able to sleep, and I had to be hospitalized for the manic episode. But before I did, I just started like frantically typing on my notes app and posting it to Instagram about my life. And, when I came out of the hospital, I had all this positive feedback from all these old friends and stuff like that. And that was how my book started. And so that was a defining moment. So I think life is full of those moments where everything changes in the blink of the eye. And, when you suffer for so long, and those moments do happen, it's like you wonder what took so long, what took so long to get help, right? What took so long to decide to be a writer? So yeah, I can identify with that a lot.
Wow. 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 We're going to just cheer you on there, Tyler. Wow. What a wonderful story. Thank you so much for sharing. That is truly, truly amazing. So you have a role. You have defined your role that you need to play, and you have defined defining moments in your life that made a paradigm shift and caused you to rethink what you were going to do. And then you step into another area and you touch the rugby ball and friends were looking at you and you had that winning moment and you had the opportunity to reconsider, and then came the desire to write the book.
Mhm.
What made you choose the name, the title that you chose for the book? What caused that?
Yeah. The first name for it was called The Lost Years.
Okay.
And it was basically going to be about the years I spent away from rugby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I kind of realized that's a boring title, and that my life story is a lot more interesting and thought provoking than something called The Lost Years. Like anybody could name anything The Lost Years. It doesn't say anything really. Um, but the Maniac with No Knees, you know, I, I'm unique in that, a ruptured patellar tendon happens once for every 147,000 human years. And I've done it to both of my knees, right? Those possibilities are so remote that it's like finding life on other planets, right? Um, Bipolar 1 disorder, I think bipolar in general, I think 2.7% of Americans are bipolar, and probably less than half of that have bipolar 1 disorder, which gives you mania on top of the depression.
Mm-hmm.
So you combine my chances of having these knee injuries and having this illness, and it's like I'm pretty unique. So let's just try and find a way to put that in the title. And it came pretty simply, The Maniac with No Knees. I had kind of joked around with that nickname. Like I was posting a lot of like short essays on Instagram, and I would sign it, yours truly, The Maniac with No Knees. And then it wasn't until like a couple months after that that I was like, wait, that's the name. Like, and it's something that, it's tough to sell a non-famous person memoir, right? Who wants to hear someone else's life story that isn't famous or anything like that? Um, so I had to kind of find something that would really get people to pick up the book, and I think I did a good job of that.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let me just put it up on the screen here. This is it, people. This is what Tyler is referring to. Yeah, and he has a copy there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So tell us how they can pre-order. Is pre-order still an option now for this publication, Tyler?
Yeah, so it's actually starting tomorrow, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely
Mm-hmm.
available.
Mm-hmm.
That's my launch date. I'm really excited for it. It'll be available on Amazon for Kindle, paperback, and
Uh-huh.
hardcover. And in about a month, I'll be coming out with the audiobook as well.
Right.
You can go to my website, tylerkania.com, if you want to pre order today. I won't take down your money info. It'll just be your email address, which will send you an automatic link when the book is ready, which is tomorrow. So if you want to wait, that's fine. If you want to go to my website, tylerkania.com, that's fine too.
Yeah. So the information I just put up there with your Facebook, your website, and the Instagram. That's all these platforms. They can reach out to you as well, Tyler.
Definitely. Yeah, I would say Instagram is my headquarters for
Right.
pretty much all my writing and
Okay.
journey and everything like that.
Okay. Okay, so we're just gonna leave that up there for a while so that they can, make the attempt to get across to you. But tell us, what is the expectation that you want with regards to people getting this publication from tomorrow? And congratulations on your launch. What do you hope that they could get out of the story, The Maniac with No Knees?
Um, my book's for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I think, at first I was thinking, I'm going to have the rugby demographic and I'm going to have the mental illness, the bipolar demographic. But what I've found is, like your header, it's a story of resilience and everyone can identify with that. Everyone struggles at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that this book is really, I've lived a roller coaster of a life. So there's a lot of adventures. There's running run-ins with a cowboy who tries to kill us, and the Boston Mafia who steals my car, and my cryptocurrency startup which lost 500,000, and my job as coaching the Eastern Connecticut State women's rugby team to a championship. So there's all kinds of action-packed narrative in there, and I think that anybody can identify with it. I think that my book is for a couple people in particular. It's for the person who's maybe an undiagnosed bipolar, right? It's really tough to identify bipolar. It doesn't manifest until you're in your mid 20s. So there's a lot of people running around there, and the 10 years I spent undiagnosed when I was trying to figure it out, when I couldn't explain my actions, it was heart wrenching. It was
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah.
So if I can help someone identify that in themselves, that's really powerful. If
Yeah.
there's someone who's lonely or suicidal and goes to my book for solace and says, well, I'm not alone because this guy felt the same way that I felt and he's okay.
Yeah.
My book's for them. And then lastly, my book is for the general public, just so that they have a better understanding of mental illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's taboo and it shouldn't be. When we break down the stigma of things, they aren't so scary anymore. So
Right.
we have to be willing to talk about it, right? We have to be willing to educate the people that maybe they are friends or have someone in their family with bipolar, but they don't really know anything about it. So I think my book can really help on a lot of levels. I don't care how well it does. I mean, I do. I need to make money and stuff like that. But ultimately, if my book can save one life, that's what it's there for, right? My book is for the version of me before I got institutionalized.
Okay.
Um, it's about trying to take your problems on head on, and finding distractions to try and stop the thoughts in your head from occurring, and ultimately realizing that the only way to fix it is to go get help, to ask someone else, right? And that's the moral of the story.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That deserves a drum roll there. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for giving us so much vital information with regards to yourself, Tyler. And I want to just stop for a minute and share some information. And we are also part of another podcast that is called Breaking Out of Depression. And we have a wonderful lineup of people that have come to our podcast. And we ask a couple of them to do some videos to help us sort of embrace the opportunity of people getting to know what our podcast is all about. And we had Amanda Blackwood. She is a survivor of human and sex trafficking, and her story is truly amazing, Tyler, because on 3 occasions she tried to kill herself and never succeeded. So I know that you can align with her and so many other people, but she's going to help us remind ourselves that there's always room for help. And like you said, you got to be able to reach out
Mm.
to try and understand what is happening with you. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out, talk to someone, say something about what you're feeling to someone, and get the kind of help that would bring a level of recovery and relief with regards to your life, whatever you're going through at this moment. There's always another way. So let's hear this from Amanda as we tell people we will begin season 3 of Breaking Out of Depression on the 14th of January 2025 at 6:30 p.m. AST time. So stand by, Tyler. We'll be right back after this.
There ain't got no way, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord, no, ain't got. I just wanted to take a moment to tell you all about this amazing podcast that I had the absolute privilege of being on recently. Oh my gosh. Andy Charles is such an easy person to talk to. It's such a wonderful podcast to listen to. I love these guys. I know that I'm not going to have nearly as many opportunities to speak to them as I wish I could, but the program, Breaking Out of Depression, is really doing exactly that for so many people. It's been a great thing to be a part of. It's wonderful to see the progress of this show as it goes along. I'm just really blessed to have been a part of this.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda Blackwood. She has been an amazing guest, and we're happy to be part of her commitment as she continues to be a recoverer, a survivor, and helping so many people who have had similar experiences with regards to human trafficking and depression and you name it, the whole 9 yards. So, Tyler, as you continue to look forward to your book launch tomorrow, I say congratulations again. What does the future look like for you in terms of planning, in terms of expectations? What does it look like for you, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on a few things right now. I'm working on, getting my book in front of as big of an audience as
Hmm.
possible, right? I'm,
Yeah.
I'm doing promotional sites, email blasts, podcasts, interviews, all those sorts of things, TikToks.
Hmm.
Um, but I have two kind of writing projects that I have started. Some are one's farther along than others. The first is, just like I was saying, it's hard to make money on a non-famous person memoir. So I've been trying to figure out how I can make money off of my writing career. And, I realized that there's an opportunity in the death industry for something more detailed, more robust than an obituary, telling someone's life story in like 2,000 or 3,000 words.
Hmm.
You interview 5 or 6 family members and friends, and you do some research, and you come up with something that's really beautiful, so that grandchildren and descendants who were too young to remember a lost loved one can read it and know who their ancestor was. Right? I don't know anything about my great grandfather, and I bet he had some great stories to tell.
Right.
So um, I'm trying to partner with funeral homes and families of the deceased to offer it as kind of like a premium option on top of an obituary. And I'm working through my first one right now, which was my dad's best friend who passed away last year. Um, and so I'm excited about that one, and the opportunity that provides to help me kind of try and make a living off of writing. Um, but there's a second book that I've been working on too. It's kind of a nod to Carrie Fisher's Postcards from the Edge, where
Mm-hmm.
it's a bunch of short essays and short stories about mental illness or addiction or suicide or growing up in a small town and not having any girls around, stuff like that. So I've got about 50 or so short essays and one short story completed. I hope to have that finished, in 2025. Um, but who knows? Like, it's so hard to make money when you're a new writer. So I could very well have a sales job, come this summer. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's great that I found my passion, because writing has filled a void in my mind for
Yeah.
so long, and I'm always going to write no matter what, whether it's for money or for the enjoyment of my friends.
Okay.
So I think I'll figure something out.
All right. I like your positive outlook and your positive attitude. It's a commitment to something getting better as you go along. We appreciate that in you, Tyler. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
What advice would you give, Tyler, to someone who's having difficult periods or difficult times in their lives and they're looking for a way out? They're looking for an alternative, someone who could identify with what they are going through and actually probably take their hand and lead them and guide them to a place where they can see clearer that there's another side to the coin that they are currently experiencing.
Yeah. I'm obviously really open about my vulnerabilities and what I've been through. And, this whole process has made me closer to different people who struggle as well. I had a college rugby teammate. He was my best friend in college. He joined the Army Rangers and spent like half a decade in the Middle East after college. And he has a lot of pain inside him. And, I heard he wasn't doing good in November. So I bought a plane ticket and I went the next day and I stayed with him for, the week, and we had a lot of fun. And I tried to, get down to the root of his problems, and I tried to
Hmm.
share what's worked for me. The things that worked for me, when you're really depressed, you disassociate from the world. You don't contact friends. You don't, um, seek out community. You kind of just barricade yourself, like that year I
Yeah.
spent in my room.
Yeah.
So the first thing is you need to find a community to belong to, whether that's an online community or a rugby team or a job. You need something that brings you around other people. We're social beings. Um, Number two, you need a goal.
Hmm.
You need something that wakes you up every morning
Yeah.
that you chase. We have to chase something. Um, and then besides those things, you know, you need a little help from your family, from your friends, the people that love you, show you they care, show you different things. And finally, professional help, right? Um, and this friend of mine, he's from my own experience. I've had like the year and a half leading up to my institutionalization and diagnosed with bipolar, I cycled through over a dozen medications, and some of them had really, really horrific side effects that
Mm,
I'm not
yeah.
going to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, and that can be scary. And he had something like that, and that drove him away from medication. And I just reminded him, I said, I know it's hell doing the trial and error thing because we don't know enough about the human brain to be able to accurately diagnose the first time we're faced with something. But you have to ride it out, because for me, I'd be dead without lithium. It saved my
Mhm.
life.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
finally
Yeah.
found that. And so if they can find those things, community, goals, medication, and therapy, you know, they should be okay.
Yeah. Wow, wonderful. I'm really touched and moved by your story and your open sharing of your compassion that you had for your friend. That's really something that we need more of in the world today, Tyler. And you are truly, truly engaging in being an agent of that. And we commend you. We really do. So we have just about 5 minutes to go, and I want to get into the aspect of you personally in terms of how you currently deal with setbacks in your life now. Like if you had a situation tomorrow where something happened that you didn't see coming, that was unexpected or out of the blue, now that you've reached this position and you have been resilient and you have actually bounced back, how do you currently set yourself up to deal with any setbacks that may show up or turn up in the future?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Thankfully, ever since I was prescribed lithium, I've only had, like, I'd say, two manic episodes, one and a
Hmm.
half, we'll call it.
Hmm.
Um, but the book, waking up and having my book to work on, yeah, I spent 7 months on it. 2 months of
Hmm.
first draft and then 5 months of editing. It took a long time, and every single morning I had that to wake up to. I suffered a very bad trauma this summer. It was the worst of my life,
Wow,
and I can't really talk about it, but
that's okay.
it debilitated me for a long time. But if I didn't have the book that I was working on, you know, I wouldn't have gotten through it.
Hmm.
The book pushed me along, and that's what I said about having a goal. It's like you just need something to drive you, to occupy your mind, and to keep you away from the bad thoughts. And if it's a distraction, great. If it's your work, great. If it's a sport, awesome. But something's got to be there. And
Yeah.
so I'm thankful that I found that, and I know that I'm gonna. Bipolar is tough because, like I said, you could have a really successful 2 or 3 years, and then it all comes crashing down in one night. You ruin every relationship you ever made, and so you have to be prepared for that. And I work hard every day. I try to do the right things, but I fall short plenty of times. Um, but ultimately, I think the worst of my illness is behind me. I think that I was on one of those rickety roller coasters with inverted tracks and, you know, going loop de loops all over the place. And then I got off the roller coaster. And it's a little boring, to be honest, when you've had all these manic episodes and there's always been something in your life. It's like you're waiting for the next big trauma to hit. And, you know, my psychologist says, what if that trauma doesn't come? But I've seen enough of my life to know that it will. So just waking up every morning and being thankful that the worst isn't there, keeps me going.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Tyler, for that amazing story of your life and your recovery and your commitment to just doing what you need to do that is necessary to continue to be resilient and always having that desire to bounce back. What would you say to the world now that you're about to launch your book and you're going into another phase of your life? If you had a parting moment that you could speak to everybody and just share something that you know is important to you, but also it says, this is my message to the universe, what would you say?
Um, I think I have a lot of messages for the universe. I think,
Hmm.
you find it in chapter one, and we've already discussed it already. It's
Yeah.
like, I spent my entire life thinking that I had courage and thinking that I was tough. And these were things that were driven into me as like a youth football player and stuff like that. And you
Hmm.
identify with them, and you play through rugby matches with a broken ankle because you think that's what's expected of you.
Yeah.
Um, but in reality, it's toxic. It's toxic masculinity, and courage is when you have the guts to ask for help.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. On that note, we have come to the end of this really intriguing and engaging conversation with Tyler Kenya. And we're going to wrap up now. And we want to just encourage you guys to pursue all the good things that you can in life. And as Tyler said, have something to look forward to, whatever you're working on. Just have a mindset that you can do better and that there's something for you to pay attention to and to give your time to and your resources to that would absolutely at some point in time make a difference. Rome wasn't built in a day. It is just step by step, action by action. So we thank Tyler for being here with us. And remember, always look for intentionality, clarity, and purpose in all that you do in your life. Tyler, I want you to stick around a little bit, but we're going to end the recording right now. And we thank all those who are live in the audience and who will be looking at this stream later on as we do our editing. Remember, it's a powerful story of resilience with Tyler Kenya. Bye for now.